Welcome, everyone, and good morning. This is episode 65 of Saved You a Seat. Today, we are going to talk about AI in title, innovation, risk, and best practices. We have two wonderful speakers today, which we will introduce here in a second. I'm going to go over a few house cleaning items. My name is Leslie Wyatt. I'm Director of Compliance at SoftPro, and we are grateful that you all joined us today. We record each webinar and we do send out a link later in the week with a follow-up email. You can share it with your coworkers, you can use it as training, you can re-listen or watch it, whatever you would like. We encourage questions. Depending on the setup on your screen, you should have a box and somewhere on there it says questions. Feel free to click in there and type any questions at any point. We will try to get to as many questions that we have. If we don't get to it, we will follow up with you. And if we are unable to answer it, we will also follow up. So with that, I am going to turn it over to Rick Diamond and Shawn Fox, two people who probably don't need much of an introduction in the AI world. And since a lot of people don't fully understand what it is that we do in this AI world, I thought it might be nice for both Rick and Shawn to kind of explain kind of their role in what they do and how it, it kind of impacts AI and what they're going to talk about today. So Rick, I'm going to throw that to you, and then Shawn, if you could give a short introduction, and then Rick, you can just kind of take over from there.
Sure. Thank you for having me, or us. I'm lucky. I get to spend a lot of time dealing with AI, both on the agency side of our business and the direct side of our business. And we spend a lot of time trying to figure out the best practices for AI, the things that we can do, the things that we shouldn't do. I'm also part of the AI review board here at Fidelity, and actually every vendor that comes through that uses AI in any form or format, generative AI or machine learning, gets reviewed by this AI review board. This is something that is going to be spectacular in this industry, and something that's a little bit scary at the same time. So I am lucky enough to get to see both sides of that, and we're going to talk about that today. So, Shawn?
Yeah, kind of just to piggyback off of that, Shawn Fox, Chief Revenue Officer with Premier One, and we deal about 70, we're a national MSP and it's a managed service provider, and about a little over 70% of our clients are title companies across the country. So I get to see it all because obviously the way we build out networks, they're very secure. We need to make sure that we're vetting all the tools that are going into these networks for compliance reasons, security reasons, and also I get to see how they're using them on a day-to-day basis, what actually works, what doesn't work, because there is, there's a lot of tools out there that look great on the front end, but once you start getting into the actual build out of what the software is supposed to do, it's not working. So you still got to vet out these tools and make sure that they're accomplishing what they need to. And obviously in the industry that we are in, data is king, and you got to make sure that your data is secure and protected, and make sure that AI is not impacting that in any shape or form. And so really it's like to Rick's point, this is going to be a huge tool moving forward. This is not like the blockchain conversations or anything like this. This isn't going away. It's just a matter of what risks are involved right now and where can you start, where are those starting points.
Yeah, that's perfect, Shawn. And we're going to be talking about a lot of things today. Shawn and I actually have a lot of experience speaking together. We've done it multiple times. And so we'll be bouncing back and forth pretty regularly through the presentation. But I want you to start thinking about kind of how we got here and where we are in the point of adopting AI. Both Shawn and I speak on this a lot. Like I said, sometimes together, many times separately. And over the past couple of years, it was more about, here, let me tell you what AI is all about. Let me tell you, what it can possibly do. And when speaking to agents about this, you always got to the point, okay, I understand what AI is. I understand kind of how it works, and we'll actually talk about that a little bit later as well. And I can start to figure out, maybe how it can help my business, but I don't know how to implement it. I don't know what the next steps are. And that's where we are today. We've identified what can help, but we've also identified the risks. And the risks are big. And I put some quotes in there. Thanks, Shawn. It says, people outside the field are often surprised and alarmed to learn that we do not understand how our own AI creations work. So think about that. So this is Dario Amande, the CEO of Anthropic and co-founder of OpenAI, right? ChatGPT. And they don't understand fully how it works. And that's part of the problem. So can you go back for a minute, Shawn?
Yeah.
Just a second.
Yeah.
I want to just touch on something here. So when it says that they are right to be concerned, this lack of understanding is essentially unprecedented in the history of technology. And what he means by that is we've all dealt with technology over the years. I've been in this business a long time. Shawn's been in this business a long time. And when people write code, when we put applications together or programs or software, SoftPro, for example, when they're built, we know what they're going to do. We know all the steps it's going to take. Unfortunately, when the use of generative AI, we don't quite know that as of yet.
Yeah, and to that point, that's, when we're looking at, and that's our concern, right? And I think, and we'll get into the risks of this down the road. There's a lot of tools out there, and the first question we're getting from our title agents, hey, we want this tool, we want to use it, but they're asking for access to our environment, and they're asking for access to our data. What are they actually getting? Where is that data getting moved to? Is that secure? Is it a secured environment? And especially for what the title world does with financial documentation, all the NPI that is sitting out there, you have to make sure that what that AI that you're implementing into your company is only accessing what you want it to access. If you just leave it open-ended, and next thing you know, there's social security numbers floating around, there's bank account numbers floating around, you don't want your AI accessing that, because at the end of the day, the AI is taking all that data. That is how it's learning. And if you're providing that MPI into these platforms, especially what, in our industry, what we try to secure on a day-to-day basis, that's not, what type of security levels do you have in place, and what are you actually building off of that AI? So you got to make sure, like to that point, what Rick was saying, they don't know what it's doing. It's a great tool for certain things, but you are the AI. You're the one providing it the information. You got to make sure that information that you're providing to it is only what you want to provide.
And I want to read part of this last sentence too, because it goes to exactly what you're talking about. When a generative AI system does something like summarize a financial document, we have no idea why it makes the choices it does, or why it occasionally makes mistakes. And I put my air quotes around occasionally. Sometimes it's more than occasionally. You got to remember, if you use generative AI at all now, asking it questions, it will never say, I don't know. If it doesn't know, it'll make up an answer.
Yes, 100%. And that's, and you can try it out. And, one of the things I always tell people is, and just as you're using it, you can use a Claude, you can use a Meta, you can use a ChatGPT, you could use a Grok. Take the same question and copy and paste it in each one of the different platforms and see what response you get from each one. They're all going to be different. They're going to be similar, but it's making up things on its own based off of the data that's already been put into it. So it's a good just test case or fun. Well, that's my kind of fun. I think everyone else probably has a little bit of different kind of fun, but it's a good way to kind of get your toes wet and get your toes in the water and see what works for you.
So I'm laughing, Shawn, about your kind of fun. So let me explain some of this. And you're looking at this maze on the screen, and in my latest AI presentations, I actually spend more time talking about the risks of AI than I do talking about the benefits. And don't get me wrong, like I said earlier, there are tremendous benefits of AI, but the risks are real. So if you look at this maze, and think of doing a title search, right? And for all the steps you take, you go to the registry, you do it online, all the different things that you have to do to put that title search together. You start the title search, you go into the maze, you go up, you go down, you do this, you do 4 steps, you do 5 steps, 6 steps, whatever it is that you do to fulfill that title search, then you come out the other side, right? That's how the humans do it. That's how we do it. That's how you do it. That's what makes you professionals. What happens with AI is, okay, AI, do this title search for me. And it's going to go in and it's going to do a whole bunch of stuff in there, and you are going to have no idea what it's doing. And then all of a sudden, it comes out and it says, hey, I'm done. And you're going to say, oh, that's great. Let me take all that information and create my commitment, do whatever I have to do. But if you ever get audited, if you ever get a question, or if there's ever a claim, and somebody asks you, did you do all the steps that you had to do to create that commitment? Your answer is, I don't know. In fact, for some applications, the fact that we can't see inside the models is literally a legal blocker to their adoption. For example, and this is to our industry, in mortgage where decisions are legally required to be explainable. So the answer is going to be, I don't know. I had AI do it for me.
Yeah, and that's a good example. And you know, to Rick's point, you know, unfortunately for me, I always get brought in on the cybersecurity side and the risks and the dark side of AI, and so the scary aspects of what is out there. And so you still have to have those risks knowledgeable in your brain. You have to have that legal standpoint, but there's so many beneficial ways of getting to that point, you know. And so this is to Rick's point right here. You know, if you're sitting here in this maze, and all these things that the human touch is doing right now, and all these documents and everything, all the process of that file, they're going to ask you. There's a legal standpoint of how did you come about with that?
And that should say insurability. I think it got blocked off up in the left-hand corner. So you know, if you click again, Shawn, right?
Yeah.
Here, again, same thing. Did it do everything you needed to do? And the only answer you're going to be able to give is, I don't know.
I don't know. Yeah, you're 100% correct. You know, so let's get away from the risk for just a little bit and kind of get into the fun side of AI. This is the side that I really like talking about. This is kind of what where, you know, if you're not familiar with AI or a little bit afraid of it, start using it for marketing. It's, you know, it's easy to, you know, you can create graphics, you can create content, and has no legal, you know, if you're just doing social media posts, LinkedIn posts, Instagram posts, or just trying to come up with email content, you know, your targeted personalization, you can build out your demographics with AI a lot easier than you used to. There's just multiple different settings where you can say, you know, I want to target, if you're in LinkedIn or Facebook or any of those things, there's AI built into it now where you can, or I want to target the female demographic of the age 25 to 40, and this is how I want to target it, and customize that message to it, right? So it's a very easy way to do targeted demographic. Automated content, you know, is something that, I mean, I use on a day-to-day basis. So, you know, a good example of that is just, you know, LinkedIn posts for the month. You know, normally you'd have to generate an image or find it or copy and paste one from the internet. Well, now you can do that all within these systems where you provide guidelines to it and generate, and so schedule it out for you in social media, and something that would normally take you days to do, you can do in an hour or two. The one real thing that I like, and we do it because, and this is like customer insights, I can take all the responses and reviews that we get on all of our tickets internally from all of our different title companies, and I can drop, these are not NPI, there's no, personal information, and these are just reviews or comments coming back to us. I can drop that into one of my projects and kind of get a summary, get a summary of what the concerns are, what they're looking for, what are the next best steps. And, so something that would normally take me, again, days, weeks to review, I can drop that content in there and get a high level summary of it. And then campaign optimization, looking at strategies around bidding. Like, I don't know if anybody's done any marketing to, especially in this market that we've been in the last 3 years, there's not a lot of marketing dollars left over. You're just trying to make sure that all your employees are in place and the systems that you have in order to create orders are there. But once it gets to that point where you can start spending some marketing dollars, then you can start really doing, in Google AdWords and optimize bidding strategy for ad buys, things like that. It's, there's a lot of cool things that you can do. One thing that I go out to our clients and title companies trying to educate, their realtors, their brokerages that they work with. And so I try to explain to them as to how do you target the Keller Williams or the Century 21s or the Remax brokerages. You can do very targeted marketing and do customer retention and do training around them and really educate the title company's clients, which are the realtor. I mean, obviously it's a buyer sellers, but your real clients are trying to get that marketing in front of the realtors. That is the easiest way to start using AI, is to start using it for marketing, image creation. These are just general images that we use. One thing, Ellen and Leslie, when they asked me to do this, I'm like, well, if I'm going to do an AI presentation, I'm going to generate one in AI. And so this whole presentation is done in a program called Gamma. And normally PowerPoints would take you, they're just a pain in the butt. They take you for everybody. Everybody's probably done one at some point. You got to work on the customization of it, the fonts, and make everything look the same. This tool creates a PowerPoint presentation look and feel within minutes, and then you can adjust accordingly. And so to show this to a realtor or brokerage it's like a game changer for them on how to market their properties.
Can I chime in on here for a minute?
Yeah, absolutely.
Shawn. So Shawn brings up a really good point. If I'm a title agent today, and I'm trying to figure out the best ways to grab more market share, right? What do we do in I don't want to say down market, a slower market or a flat market? We've been kind of flat for the last couple of years. Well, what am I going to do? I'm going to try to grab market share. So again, if I was an agent, I would have somebody in my office be my AI expert.
Yes.
And use all these tools to try to grab market share, right? And at the same time, because the strength of the relationship, of course, is always important, right? And we talk about this a lot of the time at Fidelity, right? All of our title agents, they can choose which underwriter they want to work with, and we do all kinds of things to strengthen that relationship. I won't go into them all, but you know them, and you prefer to do business with us. Again, if you make somebody an AI expert within your company, within your firm, you can then teach those skills to your customers as well. To Shawn's point, those real estate brokers and even some smaller lenders, right? And teach them how to use generative AI to help them in their marketing. It's a great process, and again, it creates that strength in the relationship that hopefully you're getting the business because you helped your clients in some form or fashion.
Yeah, exactly. And it's a customer retention tool is what it really is, because you're providing that added value that maybe your competitor isn't down the road. The one thing that I've been using a lot lately, probably for like the last 6 or 7 months, is the project tools within ChatGPT. So, and again, these project tools are all throughout these platforms, but the one I've just been using is ChatGPT, because if you're not using this, here's another guideline real quick. Within our company, about 2 years ago, we decided that it wasn't cost effective for all of us, every single employee, to have their own AI tool or their own AI subscription. So what we did is we bought AI departments. So we have a ChatGPT plan for just for marketing, and so just the marketing team access it. We have a ChatGPT just for sales, just the sales team accesses it, and then we have just the ChatGPT for engineering and procurement. So we built, so if you have 10 people in the engineering, they're going in there and looking at code fixes and whatever else, but everybody in that department can see it and go back in the history. So there might be an instance where they've used it or that question's been asked before. Same thing with marketing. But one thing, so that would be my first suggestion. Don't let everybody have a license in your company. Make sure you're doing it the right way. Don't use the free versions. That is the number one. Rick can back me up on that. Do not use the free versions of AI. Pay for the licensing. But the one thing, so I was talking earlier about social media. This is kind of another training tool that we've been telling all the title companies is create a project. Because within that project, you are basically giving it guidelines and saying, okay, this is Premier One, we do IT managed services, here's our brand colors, here's our solutions that we provide, here's our services that we provide. And then underneath that project, I can say, okay, now create me 8 LinkedIn posts for the month of July, and it'll generate those 8 LinkedIn posts for me. And then I ask it to say, okay, now create all those 8 LinkedIn posts, create 8 images for me. But not only that, when I drop in like the learning capabilities for enhanced marketing capabilities, I'm dropping in some of Alta's best practices, right? So when it's generating this content for me, it's also pulling references from Alta best practices. It's pulling all references from our SOC audits. And so it's creating very targeted messaging on social media based off the project. Essentially what I'm doing is I'm training the tool to act as a marketing employee for Premier One. And something, again, that would normally take me weeks, months to do, I can now do on a Monday morning, and I can schedule everything out for all my marketing for that week or for that month. I'll let you jump in here, Rick, this operation side, solutions for document processing and underwriting.
Yeah, so we here at Fidelity do use AI a good amount. I'm not sure I'd say a significant amount, but we do, with guardrails around it, of course. As I talked about earlier, we spent a lot of time putting up kind of our regulations around AI, and we're still doing it today. We have a whole AI department trying to figure out the best way to utilize AI. But when you talk about things like document processing and underwriting, these are things that AI can help with. Let me talk about just a process we have going here at Fidelity around documents. We use a company called Pythonic, who does have an integration with SoftPro, and we use them on our direct side of the business. And what we're using them for is CD comparison. And I've spent a lot of time with this group. I'm in charge of that project here. And what would take, I don't know, 20 minutes, 30 minutes for somebody in an office to compare a new CD with an existing CD that came from the lender, try to figure out what's changed, is everything balanced? Again, what took 20 or 30 minutes now can be done in less than a minute. And the accuracy, and we're going to talk about accuracy in a bit as well, but the accuracy of this type of thing is spectacular. And the time gains and actually the money saving, even though of course we pay Pythonic for this, the money saving just for time has been actually really, really good. So in analyzing documents, in comparing documents, in generating documents, in title search automation, in finding documents and certain types of information, it's a very good tool. Again, when you're doing a title search, not handing the whole thing off to AI to do, because again, you have to be able to answer those questions. Did you do everything you were supposed to do? But again, anything to do with document and understanding documents and creating documents, generative AI is a wonderful tool.
Yeah, I would agree 100% with that. And this gets to the point where you're just talking about, Rick. We just talked about this in Pittsburgh at NS3 was, accuracy versus precision. The tools out there are great. But Rick, to this point right here, and this is, you had some really good talking points about this in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, I'll talk about it. When it comes to generative AI, and you look at the different platforms out there, right? Like the ones that Shawn talked about, whether it's Perplexity or Claude or ChatGPT. I mean, there's a multitude of them now. Besides the fact that sometimes they make things up, and you hear the word hallucinations all of the time, they're not always 100% accurate. And in our world, in the title world that we live in, there's a big difference between accuracy and precision. When trying to change some documents or creating documents or things like that, or looking stuff up, being 91% accurate, being 95% accurate, being 99% accurate is good enough. But when doing things like a title search, when doing things like calculating dollars to cents to the penny on certain things, 99% accuracy is not good enough. We have to be precise. We have to be precise at 100%. So today, I don't think generative AI is where it needs to be when we need to be precise. It's fine where we need to be accurate, 99%, 95%, whatever, and we'll get into this a little bit, but it's not quite there yet if we have to be 100% accurate. So I want you to keep that in mind in the decisions that you make where you're going to use AI.
Yeah, and to your point, Rick, I mean, here's just some high level, making sure that accuracy and precision, your title search, your curative, your escrow calculations, those have to be precise. Wiring and payoff retrieval, those have to be precise. That's not, in the marketing side, you can be accurate. You can get to a point and there's no ramifications on that marketing side. But when you're doing a payoff, or escrow accounting, that has to be precise. If you're trying, at the end of the day, you're trying to avoid claims. And, so that's where you need, these are just some high level areas of where you really should pay attention. And if you're looking, and I don't, there's AI, there's a lot of these things right here that, there's loose, AI is an overarching term. There's things underneath it like RPA and bots and APIs and things like that. And those, like your bots that are out there those are precise. They're taking, they're doing screen grabs and they're just providing you the correct information of what is actually out there. But that's a bot, that's not AI. It's not generating any content, or it's not doing generative AI. The bot is actually just coming back with the information that is already available. So you got to make sure that there's still that precision within all these departments.
So I always feel like when Shawn and I speak that he's good cop and I'm bad cop. And that's okay, right? As an IT guy, sometimes you have to give bad news. But I want you to read this last sentence here. Precision is non-negotiable in these key areas. So again, keep in mind that in these areas of your business, precision is what you're going for.
And this, again, this is kind of just a general graph, but pattern recognition, comprehensive searches, consistency check, it's you're getting to there, right? It reduces errors. AI is reducing some errors, but at the end of the day, it's you have to be precise. And those, it's getting you closer to where you need to be. It's almost like if you're a partner at a law firm and then you have a legal assistant. That legal assistant is providing you as much information as they can find, but there's a reason why they're a legal assistant and you're a partner. The partner at the end of the day ultimately has to review what that legal assistant is providing to them. So just make sure that you're cross-referencing the details that you need. You're doing that consistency check to get to that precision of that actual title order.
We have not reached the singularity as of yet, which
No.
means that there must be human involvement always.
And and Rick and I can both talk about this from title agents across the country. The majority of title companies across this country are looking at AI and how they can implement it. All of ours, whether we're training them on tools or whether they're coming back to us and asking us to vet out their solutions that they're looking into, everybody is going in this direction. It's just a matter of which ones work and which ones are going to give you the most precise information that you're looking for. And this, to Rick's point right here, is another good slide that he put together. I'll let you go with this one.
Yeah, lack of precision equals claims. So remember I told you about, we've spent a lot of time putting our AI strategy together here at the Fidelity family of companies. And we did that for a reason. I mean, we are in the business of paying claims. That's what we do. But a 98% accuracy opposed to 100% precision in a year could cost us $20 million in claims. That's why we have to keep the human involvement in what we do here. And you should consider that as well, because claims are a problem for you too. Integrating AI into legal and title operation brings significant risks, regulatory and compliance challenges, operational errors due to over-reliance on automation and heightened data security threats. These risks can result in legal penalties, reputational harm, important to all of us, and certainly costly mistakes.
And to the point, and I feel like we're always talking about the risks these days, Rick, but
I'm Babcock, that's fine.
Yep, and this is, again, and you'll have this presentation for you to kind of go back to and just use it. I would look at this presentation as a crutch just moving forward, but there are legal implications, navigating regulatory compliance and risk management, regulatory considerations, liability concerns, document requirements. At the end of the day, there is no case law around AI right now. Reese from CADIC was at one of our meetings, and there are guidelines based off the states and departments of insurance, but there's no case law right now. So the risk is, and the liability is out there. And until this actually, there's tools put in place and the correct requirements put in place, you're having to navigate this on your own. And so you need to Rick's point, whether it's an AI monitor or an AI czar that's within your company, there needs to be some walls put up and to say, okay, at ABC Title Company, this is our guidelines as to how we're implementing AI, and make sure you're abiding by those rules.
Exactly right.
This is probably the biggest thing that needs to be told to everybody is finding balance, ensuring human oversight of AI powered systems. I cannot stress it enough that it is one of the best technologies that's come about, but at the end of the day, it's not right. And you still need that oversight of a human interaction on AI to make sure that it's doing what it needs to do. And also, AI cannot replace a relationship, at least not yet. We'll see. Maybe down the road it can. But when you're looking at AI, the human oversight of AI-powered systems there's a lot of novelty to it. It's very complex. But at the end of the day, that relationship between your business and your client is based off of your relationship that you have with it. And that's kind of like the high level overview that I always look at it. Like AI can help me out with a lot of different things, but it's not replacing my relationships as to what I'm actually trying to accomplish with my clients. And so the AI doesn't follow programmed logic. Like we have programmed logic in our brains that helps us become more relationship driven, human to human. But also when you're looking at oversight of these AI tools, you need to make sure that before anything leaves your four walls of your company, somebody has done a quality control check and actually reviewed what AI is putting out there. Right, and we're going to get into this, but generative AI is uniquely capable of creating convincing yet entirely fabricated information. So you need to actually have that human interaction to prevent errors and misinformation.
This is still a relationship business, and it'll always be a relationship business. That, in my mind, is never going to change. I don't care how much AI comes down the road. Just think of AI as a trusted companion that you have to manage. That's the best way to think about it.
Exactly. So these are some, complex legal interpretation, judgment calls, client communication, that's even the client communication. And I'm trying to train Microsoft Copilot right now to answer my emails for me, but until they get my smart aleck attitude built into it, it's going to be really tough to actually reply to some of these emails. But I'll have it write some of the emails for me, and I'll say it's like 70% of the way there. So I'm still doing that quality control check before that email gets sent out. So, even with all the marketing stuff that it generates for me, I'm still reviewing everything before I actually send it out the door for any type of, if I'm promoting the business, it has to be the right, correct information that is being explained to my target audience. It still does misspellings, well, that would actually fall in line with my marketing if there's misspellings in it, but you still got to check all that kind of stuff.
So think about, I like this client communication bullet point here, because listen, we've all written an email in anger, right? Something angered us, something, excuse my language, pissed us off, and we fire back an email before we've really thought about it. And we've all done that in the past. Hopefully, we've learned our lesson. I've certainly done it. We've learned our lesson, and kind of we don't do that anymore. If something gets us angry, and you take a step back, count to 10, or think about it for a little bit before you respond. But that same thought process should be given here. Before you ever allow AI to send out a communication for you, you must check it.
Yeah. One of the best things about Copilot in your emails is you write an email, to Rick's point, that you want to kind of jump down somebody's throat because you want to send an angry email. You can write that email, and all you have to do is like highlight it, hit Copilot, and say, make this sound a lot nicer than how it's written right now. I had a filter in my company that I was making sure that I didn't send out any angry emails. His name is Kevin. He's the president of our company. Now I just use Copilot to make it sound like I'm being a lot nicer. That's an easier way to do it, Rick.
Well, and Kevin is a lot nicer than you.
That's also true. But also the other point is, this is kind of another fun thing that I like to mess around with is Rick and I have known each other for 20 plus years. And one thing I know about Rick and myself is we like Seinfeld. And so I can get, what I've been trying to do is actually train the emails, if I'm going to send an email to Rick, to put a Seinfeld like quote or mannerism or kind of that type of talk into the email. I don't have it there yet because you have to train it, but those are the types of things that you can mess around with and have a little bit of fun with it on the client communication side.
I can't wait for that first email.
Right.
To succeed in life, you need two things: ignorance and confidence, right? Listen, we know many people that have both of those things. I won't get into it. But this is kind of how you should look at generative AI, right? It has a lot of confidence. Remember what we said earlier, it'll never say, I don't know, but at the same time, it's a little bit ignorant on certain things.
Yes. I'll let you jump into this one, Rick, and we can talk about this one forever.
Yeah,
'Cause
I mean, I won't spend a lot of time here. Um, Generative AI, you've heard this term hallucination. It does it. It's not getting better in certain aspects, in certain platforms. It's actually getting worse as these large language models are growing in its, and I'm putting my air quotes up, you can't see me, in its expertise. You got to remember that the two main areas that these large language models are getting their information from is, number one, the internet. And, the internet is always true, right? You've heard that. And of course, anything else that we, the users of these platforms, have put in. So it takes biases, it takes fake news, it takes racism. I mean, all these negative aspects that you have seen on the internet over the years, you got to remember, generative AI has been trained on that stuff. So you have to keep that in mind, that there's going to be biases, there's going to be racism, there's going to be fake news, there's going to be information that is simply not true in there. So, yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, prime example yesterday, if you're on X or social media, you see this video that's out there and it looks real, and the headline is "Nature is amazing," and it's a polar bear swimming over over the top of all these the killer whales, and then clinging on to a boat. It looks, I mean, it's so good, it looks real, and you feel sad. But then you realize, oh, okay, that's AI. It's just making, like, AI is getting to that point now where it looks, it feels almost real, but you need to make sure that you're vetting out what the AI is producing. I mean, that's a very simple way of looking at the AI content that's being created and everything else, but the hallucinations are real. Like, to this last point, AI is forced to create an answer and creatively support its answer. It'll tell you the answer, and it could be 100% wrong, but it's going to back it up till it's blue in the face. Right? It's almost like telling somebody the sky is blue, and somebody's looking at you like, no, it's green. You're going to sit there and argue with it all the time. It's going to force that answer, and so it's going to support it anyway. And so you just got to make sure that you're reviewing all of that.
So prompts matter, and this kind of goes to what we're talking about here. And since generative AI relies, obviously, a tremendous amount on prompts, you should really consider and concentrate on the types of prompts that you put in there. So here's an example. Prompts matter to prevent hallucinations. So as we talk about, there are a lot of hallucinations in there, but trying to cut that down, you can do that with prompts. So here's an example. Can Teams only notify me when certain people call or message me? Well, generative AI is going to give you that. Yeah, sure, we can do that. Not a problem, right? You're leading to an answer. And then the better way to do this is show me how to set up Teams to only notify me when certain people call or message me. That's the better way to do this. You're not leading generative AI to an answer. You're helping it figure out the best way of doing something and the best way to give you an answer.
Yeah, and Rick and I were talking about this yesterday. Prompting is, I mean, there's actually companies out there that hire people just to write prompts, but now that was about a year and a half ago, and things have changed so much. But clarity and specificity, I can't talk, sorry, I had mouth surgery a couple of days ago, so some words are going to be a little hard for me to say. Constraint setting, things are out there. The prompting is key to get to what you want. With clear language, you can actually get the most relevant information that you're looking for. I will tell you this, one thing, again, I was telling Rick this yesterday, when I'm doing a prompt, let's say I need to create an image. And I will go into ChatGPT or Claude and say, I want an image with our colors, green and black colors, and to look like the Matrix with binary code. And, there's somebody sitting at a desk in front of, a beautiful landscape. I'll put that into ChatGPT, and then I will ask it to write the prompt for me. So I give it a high level version of what I'm looking for. Then I ask the AI system to actually write the prompt, and it gets very detailed. And the results I get off of that prompt that it's written for me are 10 times better than that high level overview that I'm getting. That's an easy way, a little trick that I found is prompt the system to write a better prompt for you.
That was tremendous. I tried that yesterday afternoon after we had that discussion, and that actually really works. That's probably the best prompting tip that I've ever received.
If you're doing so, prime example, everyone's experienced this with images within AI. You want an image created, but you want it to look like a business modern image, but what it spits out is a cartoon looking image. And then you could fight with AI, and yes, I've fought with AI. I fight with AI every single day of my life. I still haven't won, but at least I'm trying. But you can at least, to that point, it generates a more clear and precise prompt. And that's just for an image. Now you can even do that for, writing emails. If you want to respond in an email, you can do it in just creating documents, but use the system to help you out. Again, I always look, AI is not going to replace me. AI is just only going to make me a better employee and a better, more efficient in my life. I'm using, a lot of people are scared of AI. I wouldn't be scared of it. It's just enhancing your abilities to be a better employee for your company or a better business owner for your company.
So this is a great example of what I was talking about with a leading question. So you don't want to ever lead the witness, right? So a lot of you are attorneys, you understand this, right? When in a court, you never want to, well, maybe you do want to lead the witness, but it's not always the best way to do it. So contrafactual bias describes AI's tendency to assume that a factual premise in a query is true, even if it's demonstrably false. This is akin to leading the witness in a courtroom, where the phrasing of a question subtly directs the answer, right? That's what you don't want to do. So here's your leading question. Given the issues with AI, should we use it less in the title business, right? First leading question. Leading question two, given how amazing a problem solved with AI is, should we use it more in the title business? So both those prompts were leading. One was leading on the negative side. One was leading on the positive side. So, right, to minimize this bias, encourage objective outlook, it's crucial to formulate prompts with neutrality. Avoid loaded languages or embedded assumptions that could skew the AI's response.
So this is, kind of getting towards the tail end of this presentation. Where is it Excel? Where should you avoid it? This is where AI excels in title insurance is brainstorming and idea generation, internal memos, policies, summarization of long documents. And again, so there's all these different tools out there. We can use the summarization of long documents. I'll give you a different scenario. Again, I'm different. I use every single AI tool that's out there, and some work better for others. So prime example, my son is, this math whiz, and he's always trying to stump AI. And he gave the same question to ChatGPT for one of his SAT questions, and it got it wrong on math side of things. But then there's a Julius AI out there that is specifically geared towards math, and that gets it correct. But then, so I'm using ChatGPT, I'm using Claude and everything else. Microsoft Copilot is probably the least successful tool out there these days, but what it's really good at is summarization of emails. So if anybody's traveling or you go on vacation, you come back and there's an email string that has 50 emails in it, and you're still, and that's just one, subject that you're going back and forth with, and you have 200 other emails that you need to reply to, you can go into Copilot and summarize this email string for me, and it'll give you a high-level summary of everything that's going on in that email. And that is a summarization of your emails, but you can also do a summarization of long documents. Personally, you can, if you're getting quotes for like houses, or you need some, you're doing a renovation, you can drop that quote in there to summarize what the quote looks like, see where you're spending your actual dollars. But those are, easily verified tasks, internal memos. Those are areas where it really exceeds in the insurance world, excels in the insurance world, but low risk and low cost of air tasks. That's where we're really looking at it. Low risk is where it really excels.
This is a nice kind of checklist and gut check if you're trying to decide where to use AI in your business. All right, so I'm going to be bad cop again. When to avoid AI, high stakes scenarios. We talked about this a little bit earlier, right? When critical accuracy is required, tasks demanding absolute, unimpeachable precision, even the slightest inaccuracy can lead to severe legal or financial consequences, right? High time pressure decisions. Listen, we all live in high pressure situations, right? Whether it's me on the IT side, or certainly Shawn in his world with what's going on with fraud and everything else, but certainly in your world where time crunches, end of the month, 4 o'clock on a Friday, all these type of things is not the time really to use generative AI. High cost of error, and certainly we don't have to tell you this, legal binding outputs. It's just not the place to use it. It's not there yet. It might get there, probably not before I retire, but as of today, no. So let me just chat on this one just for a second. We have seen one of the things that prompted my presentations lately is, and this is why I started with this at the beginning of this presentation when talking about search and exam, because this scares us at Fidelity, and it should scare you as well. So as we said, the future of commercial title using AI, supercharge your title production with AI, the future of title and abstract efficiency through innovation. You may see this a lot of places. There are companies out there today that are using generative AI in search and exam in some form or fashion. I've called a couple of them out. I've had discussions with them, and when you call them out, they go, "Well, we really don't do this, and we still have humans in the mix." And I'm like, okay, just be careful, because we don't feel that it's ready as of yet. I think the time savings and the money savings that you might get out of using some of these platforms may not be worth the legal implications on the back end. Now, again, I'm not saying it's not going to get there at some point, and you have to make your own decisions on these type of things. And if you find something that you feel is working and you're comfortable with it, sure, use it. Just be on the lookout.
This is
Go ahead, Mr. Good Cop.
Hey, for once I get to be good cop. Usually I'm the downer with the cybersecurity risks. Generative AI supporting everyday work, summarizing meeting notes, compare text differences, office program guidance, translate text, email refinement. These are just some very simple everyday examples of, just to get you going. Just start using these tools, and don't be afraid of them. Just remember, and the big concern from all of our title companies across the country are, what if we want to implement this tool, Shawn, what are the risks that we are going to be dealing with? You know, a good client of ours out on the west side of this country is, you know, they ask every time if something, you know, before they implement something, what are the security risks? What are they accessing? What type of data are they asking? They're doing their due diligence, and which they should, and they're calling us to make sure that what this vendor is saying is actually a legitimate tool that they should be putting into their environment. I will use this, and you know, I guess can't get off of one call without talking about cybersecurity, but I will always bring up the Target breach. When Target got breached years ago, it wasn't Target that got breached, it was their HVAC vendor, their third-party vendor that got breached, and because they got breached, it got into Target's system. So when you're looking at your environment, you're looking at these tools that you want to implement into your company, one, vet out their security guidelines before you even let them touch anything within your company, and then very clearly ask them what type of data that they're using. And I will also tell you, if they've built this tool themselves, great, but are they using a large language model? Are they using an LLM, or is this an AI tool that they've built themselves? My big concern is, you know, if they've built a tool that is using ChatGPT's backend or Grok's backend or Claude or whatever it is, and they're implementing it into these environments where it's title companies where you're sitting on all that MPI, that financial information, and then that data is just getting dumped into some big open source AI platform. You don't want that. You need to make sure that that's locked down. Responsible AI use, you know, best practices, you know, we can go through this, you know, the one that I want to point out here is, well, obviously data confidentiality, a top priority. You don't never put in any MPI, PII, anything into these systems. Don't do it. Make sure that just don't do it. I don't even know any other way to explain it. There's no nice way to say it. Just don't do that. But the one down here, avoid risky and free tools. So every single AI platform out there is free. You can sign up for it for free. You can start using it. But that means everything that you're dumping into it is going back to their big data repository. But then you get into, like, DeepSeek is a Chinese-based AI tool. So, and unfortunately, you know, there's some good aspects of it, but you have to be wary of where that was developed. Grok, like the free version of it, don't use it for anything that you need in your company. Now there's a paid version, and there's, just like ChatGPT and just like Meta, just like Claude and all these other ones, if you're going to use it, buy the license, come up with a budget for AI within your four walls. You have your IT budget, you have your operating expense, create an AI budget and test out what works within your four walls.
So I think we're running up against it. So hopefully we've given you some guidelines here. We can go past this, Shawn, and we're at the end. Key takeaways. Just remember these things that we've talked about here, right? Especially for our industry. These are things you always need to keep in mind. Again, going back right from the beginning, AI is a wonderful tool. Generative AI is a wonderful tool, and there's wonderful ways to use it in our industry. The bottom one here, cautious implementation. I don't think there's two better words.
Yeah, I think if you want, reach out to Leslie or Ellen or Rick, or if you want, I do have, just like how you have your internet best practices within your company, I do have a template for you for AI implementation into your company, and to kind of fall into what you're looking for. You know, just another best practice here. If you're going to implement AI, here's kind of the policies that you need to implement it.
So Ellen, I think we've run up against time. I don't want to go over.
We are close. We had a couple questions that should be fairly quick. If you guys don't mind, I'll ask you those and then we can wrap up here. But one of the questions was, you know, if AI is only guessing what you're wanting and time is of the essence, why risk using AI to save time when you just have to fix it if it's not 100% correct and risk legal issues down the road? And I think, you know, my opinion on that is it really depends what you're trying to use AI for. And if, you know, the content or the responses it's giving you that you then have to review saves you more time than if you have to draft it and review your own work, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's the exact correct answer, Ellen. It ultimately, it all comes down to what you are comfortable with, right? Everybody's risk tolerance is different, and that's okay. If you're comfortable with it, if you used generative AI a lot, you understand the facts that it hallucinates and lies and makes things up, you have to get to a point where you are comfortable and where you aren't comfortable, and you have to make that decision for yourself.
Yeah. So really on a case-by-case basis. And the other question from someone was, can we get a list of approved AI tools and what they are best used for? And I don't necessarily know that we have an approved list of tools, but I'm thinking we could probably scrounge together some examples of tools that people can use in the day-to-day or start testing with. I know that we have some that we suggested at the end of last year, so at the very least we could provide those.
Yeah, we can combine some of ours as well, Ellen.
Okay, perfect. Well, thank you so much, Shawn and Rick. I know we are at time, so we'll go ahead and wrap it up here. I just want to remind everyone who's on the webinar that today's episode was recorded. It will be available on our SoftPro blog tomorrow. So if you want to review any of this information again or share anything that you learned today from Rick and Shawn, you can just visit blog.softprocorp.com and the content will be there. And we will hopefully see you guys for our next Saved You a Seat episode. So stay tuned for more information on that. And thank you both again. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Thanks.